service, I wanted to show you some pictures of these families, and I put some information in the bulletin. It's hard to see. If you want a better look, the back projector looks better. If you want to turn around and look at that. But on the left, we have Mandy and Sean with Michael Braylon Patrick. He was born October 24, 2016 at 10:02 p.m. weighing in at 7 pounds, 12.5 pounds, and he was 19 inches. And going by age, we'll skip over to the right, which is my wife and I, Jack, and my wife, Paige. Isaiah Michael Kmiecik. He was born after a long day, 2:06 a.m., 8 pounds, 9 ounces, and 20 inches long. And then right there in the middle, beautiful family. One of our elders, Jerry, and his wife, Carrie, born Molly Jane Briggs, born March 12, 2017. That one was an especially funny story because Jerry showed up ready for worship practice, and he's like, I may have to go. Carrie went to the hospital, and I have to get on the baby. And then he played like one song, and got something right. He's like, I gotta go. And then a couple minutes after he got there, he was calling us on the phone, trying to help us fix the computer because it was broken that Sunday. And then, what do you know? A couple minutes later, Molly Jane Briggs was born 7 pounds, 9 ounces, 18.5 inches. So that is who we are dedicating today. Michael Braylon, Molly Jane, and Isaiah Michael. And the reason we do baby dedications as a church with people who are here at the church is because dedications they're kind of about the baby, but kind of not. Dedications are more about, yes, the children, but also the parents and the church, which is you guys, the people sitting here in this room. And I want to go just one by one and just kind of talk about each one, the children, the parents, and the church. And then we've got something special. We have 3 different people dedicating or praying over each child. I'm going to read a scripture and kind of talk about a pledge that you do when you go through a baby dedication. But then Dave Riley is going to pray over Michael Braylon. Then Mike Montgomery, my father-in-law, who's a pastor in South Carolina, him and his wife Myra are here. They're going to pray over Isaiah Michael. And then we have David Crow, who is the grandparent of Molly Jane, going to pray over Molly Jane. And I'm going to invite you to stand and pray with us and extend your arms. But I just want to go one by one today and just briefly talk about the importance of a baby dedication, what it means for the child, what it means for the parents and other parents in the room, for other people in the room, and then, most importantly, the church. So starting off with the children. The children. This is something that we do and we talk about in our kids curriculum over here. We use orange, and they talk about the importance of knowing that children are created in the image of God. Children are created in the image of God. Very at the beginning of the Bible, Genesis 1:27, it says, so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created a male and female. He created them. That's you and me, that's the babies, the children, kindergarten through 5th grade, what we have in our children's ministry, in our nursery, in our toddler nursery. They are created in the image of God. When they are young and when they are learning and when they cry, they are created in the image of God. And to think about that specific point, how each kid is made in the image of God, and each kid has a divine capacity to reason, to understand, to care, to love, to lead. And as parents and as people in this church, as the church, that is something that can never leave the forefront of our mind when we see children throwing balls that hit you in the head, right? That cry and make lots of noise. I made a joke in one of my sermons, and I know it's a good joke, or it's a bad joke because it made me look silly when someone mentions it to me after the service, and I just said, for the first 5 minutes, When my baby's crying, it's cute. But then after that, it's just plain annoying, right? When the baby is annoying, or when your kids are going through something that's tough, when you struggle to parent them, to minister to them, to just maybe exist with them, we have to remember that each kid is made in the image of God. And each kid has a divine capacity. Each person, because they're created in the image of God, means that they have the ability, not because they're your kid or because they're related to you, but because they're in God's image. They have the capacity to think, to understand things that go on in this world, to care for you, to care for other people, to love you, to love other people, and to lead, most importantly, other people to Christ. Now, if we treat children like they're made in the image of God, if we convince them that they are sons and daughters of God, I believe we would see a revolution in our church. When you take a child and you give them meaning and you give them purpose and you love them, but more than that, if you convince them what you believe, that they are made in the image of God, it not only empowers them, makes them feel good, builds up their self-esteem, but it helps them become the person that God has designed them to be. And it all starts with believing and knowing and living it so much so that you convince a child that they are made in the image of God. One of the verses I'm about to read in the book of Psalms, every kid has been handcrafted by God. Not only is every kid made in the image of God, but every kid has been handcrafted by God. Look at this verse in Psalms. It says, verse 13, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well." Verse 15 of Psalm 139. "My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." I love those verses because it talks about before you were born, before the children dedicated today were born, before the parents were born, before anybody was born, God knew who you were. And not only that, but when you came to be, it says that He knit you together in your mother's womb. You are not an accident. You are something that has been fearfully and wonderfully made and created inside your mother's womb, and that is who children are when we see them, that they are something that has been handcrafted by God. And God has a plan. God has a purpose for each children's life. In this church, outside this church, in the schools that you work in the workplaces that you work in, we have children all around us that are handcrafted by God, in the image of God, but handcrafted by God. And what I think that means is that every kid was uniquely created and formed with unique characteristics and for a unique purpose. I used to teach it's basically sex ed or relationship coaching when I was back in Omaha, and I would go into these high schools, and it was entertaining to say the least, going into freshman, sophomore, junior classes and talking about that type of stuff. But I would talk to them about this verse. I would go into the schools and teach about relationships, and teach about dating, and teaching about abstinence and waiting. And what I would tell them from this verse was one of the most important things that I think they could have heard in the entire, 2 hours, the last 2 days classes that I would teach. And that nobody in the history of the world, billions of people, nobody in the present, 7+ billion people, Nobody in the future, however many billions and billions and billions of people in the future that will exist before Jesus comes back, not a single person is exactly like you. Not a single person, past, present, or future, is exactly like you. And that's because you're made in the image of God, but you are uniquely crafted by the hands of God. And if you are uniquely crafted by the hands of God, you're unique, you matter, and you have a purpose that only you can fill. And to know that, to read Psalm 139 and see that, and to live it are two different things. Because we would treat every single child, every single kid that comes to our nurseries, every single kid that is in our children's ministry, every single kid that we come in contact with as being created in the image of God and uniquely created for a unique purpose. And to grasp that changes everything. To know that every phase of a kid's life reminds us that they are fearfully and wonderfully made. The orange curriculum that we use, that Lynn uses and does a great job with, there was actually an orange conference this last week, and lots of people here at Cornerstone were able to go to that conference. They teach that every kid has a phase of life, so don't miss it. Meaning, when they're in that phase and the terrible twos, it's terrible twos, but don't miss that phase. When they're growing up and they're teenagers and they're arguing back, don't miss that phase. When they're in college and they're a little bit more distant, don't miss that phase. Every kid goes through certain phases of life and they need certain things in those phases, so don't miss the phase. And when we see that kids are fearfully and wonderfully made, we can pull the greatness of God out of that kid in each phase when we look at them and see that they are created in the image of God. They're uniquely created because they were knit together in their mother's womb by God. Children created in the image of God. Parents, this is a fun one. I get to preach about parents being a parent for 3 months, so this will be good, right? But there's a verse that I saw, and my wife actually showed me this verse. She's like, "Have you seen this verse?" I'm like, "No." And it is a cool verse. Psalm 127, verses 3 through 5, says that children are heritage from the Lord. Offspring, a reward from Him. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are children born in one's youth. Blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. Children are a blessing. Offspring, a reward from God. God blesses people with children. And it says that children are like arrows in the hands of a warrior. And blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. I picked up hunting this last season, and it was pretty fun. I only got one deer, but I can imagine, because I missed several deer on my first shot, not having a quiver full of arrows. And when you hunt, you want to have a quiver that's full of arrows, because if you're like me, you're probably going to miss once or twice and the deer's going to run off. But when God says that when your quiver is full of arrows, it means that it's full of blessings. It's something that I have found in working before I had kids, is that if you don't have kids, God still blesses you with opportunities with kids. And there were several youth in Omaha and other places that I've worked that I could have called my kids. They weren't that much younger than me, but when Paige and I would spend time with them and encourage them, I felt like God was putting arrows in our quiver. And that's how important it is. Maybe you're a biological parent, maybe you have kids, but maybe they're just youth around you that God is giving to you as a responsibility to encourage. And that is a blessing, just like being a parent. Children are one of the greatest blessings God can give. And children are created in the image of God. They are uniquely created, knit together in their mother's womb. But as parents, we have to remind ourselves every day that children are one of the greatest blessings God can give. And I'm a man that likes my sleep. So when I have to wake up at 6:30 in the morning, I have to remind myself that children are one of the greatest blessings that God can give. But there's a flip side to that same coin. And I believe that children are also one of the greatest responsibilities that God can give. We have a dog. We did have 2 dogs, but we got rid of one dog because it didn't get along. We recently acquired a free cat, and that's been fun. And when we first got a dog, we didn't have kids. And, we were renting a house, and we got the dog. And, the dog you can put in the kennel and kind of go out to dinner and kind of leave it be. You potty train, feed, water, whatever you need to do, the dog's good. And I felt a sense of pretty profound responsibility having to take care of another animal. But the day Isaiah was born, and I saw my wife hold him in her arms, and I held him in my arms, I felt the greatest joy that I've ever experienced. But I also felt this is going to change everything. The responsibility that I have with a son and whatever kids come down the line is one of the greatest blessings that God can give, but it's also one of the greatest responsibilities that He gives to us. And if you ever have a responsibility, whether it's something with work or whether it's something with your family or something that you just to do around the house, it is a little bit of a burden. But there's a type of joy that comes from fulfilling a responsibility that you don't get from any other thing. And when you talk about the joy you get from fulfilling a responsibility when it comes to caring and taking care of your children, that is where God blesses you. And that is where I realize that children are one of the greatest blessings God can give. With children being a responsibility, one of the great verses I thought of was Deuteronomy 6, 4 through 8. It says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." Verse 5, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts." Verse 7, "Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, and when you walk around the road, and when you lie down, and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the doorframes of your houses and on your gates." That is a responsibility that God is giving us as parents, as people who are charged with the responsibility to lead children into a relationship with God. Proverbs 22:6 also says, "Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it." This is the responsibility that God gives us as parents and heads of our household. We are to teach our children about God. Now, I love that it did say in Deuteronomy 6, make sure you have a 2-hour Bible study every night. But what it does say is, when you're walking along the way, talk about it. When you sit down for dinner, talk about it. When you go to sleep, talk about it. When you wake up in the morning, talk about it. Teach them the way they should go, and they will not depart from it. Something I've learned just in working in youth is that children don't necessarily automatically know right from wrong. They don't grow up not having to be taught, not having to be trained, not having to be directed, not having to be guided. They learn. And especially today, they're going to learn either what you say and what you teach or what somebody else teaches. Whether it's somebody at school, whether it's one of their friends, whether it's somebody at the sports team that they play for. We want children to learn the things of God from us. And that is the responsibility that God gives us, is to teach our children about him and the difference that he has made in our lives, and to communicate that to our children and train them up in the way they should go. Because I think one of the greatest things we can do in life is take pride and joy in raising our kids. It's hard, it's messy, there isn't an instruction manual, but we can take pride and find joy in the ups and the downs and us figuring out one day from the next in raising our kids, training them up, talking about God when we walk, when we're driving in the car to practice, when we're driving in the car to school, when we eat dinner, when we listen to music on the radio. We can find pride and great joy in raising our kids. And I promise you, you did or will find joy in just interacting with any kids when you take the responsibility to heart and know that they're created in the image of God, they're uniquely formed in their mother's wombs, and we can have an impact on their life. The last thing I want to talk about before I ask people to come up is just the church. Because we play, as a church, an extremely important role in kids' lives. Jesus taught us the importance of taking care of children. He says in Matthew 19:14, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." The kingdom of heaven belongs to children. You know, Jesus was sitting down and he was teaching, and all these kids started running up to Jesus. And Jesus just kind of welcomed them, and his disciples said, "Whoa, Jesus, get these little runts out of here. The real adults need to learn about God and what you have to teach." And he said, "No, don't hinder them, because the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." And I have found that the best way for a kid to know God is to know people who know God. That a kid who is struggling with self-esteem, who has questions, who wants relationship and meaning, who just wants to feel love, the best way for them to know God is to not necessarily memorize a whole chunk of scripture. It's for them to know somebody who knows God. And as a church, that person could be you. That person could be you. Whether you work in the children's ministry or you work in the hospitality or on the worship team, it doesn't matter, because you can have an impact on a kid's life because you know God, and you can have a relationship with them and help them know God. And I think the church, almost more than any other organization, has a unique opportunity to connect, help, and support kids and families throughout life's journey. What other organization, and there may be a few, but none like the church, do parents and kids voluntarily come multiple times a week just to spend time with each other to connect over a common belief or interest? There is almost nothing like the church. And the church has a unique opportunity to connect, help, and support kids and families, and we have got to leverage that opportunity by having a relationship with kids who may not necessarily know God, because if they know us, they can know God by how we interact with them. And children need to know and see someone every week who loves them like Jesus loves them. Even if you just come on Sunday morning and you go to the same kid at least once and just say, "Hey, how you doing? How's school going?" And give them a big hug. If that's it, you are loving that kid like Jesus loves you, and you are showing the love of Jesus to that kid, and having the consistency of doing that on a regular basis can change a kid's life. Because you are knowing God, are showing God's love to another kid, and they will see that. They see that and know that God loves them because someone who knows God loves them. We have a great opportunity as a church to do that. These are the three babies that we are dedicating today. And I'm going to have the families come up and the kids. Grandparents can come up if they would like. Extended family, friends. I just kind of leave it up to you guys. Whoever you want to come up can come on up. And we're just going to have a brief prayer for the kids and dedicate them to God. As they come up, I'm going to grab a microphone. What's that? He's going first. I think it'd be good, maybe we can do it in order. We can do the Patricks over here, the Kmieciks and Montgomerys in the middle, October, January, April. No, March. That's right, March. Don't want to get that one. Where'd our church go? So, you know, this is my first baby dedication. It's kind of special because it's also my first son. But I was looking, you know, talking with different people, and there was like 3 pages of pledges to read out, and quote, and answer. And I thought I would do something a little bit more simple, just to tell you guys what today is. Today is all of us and the families giving thanks to God. Today is a public commitment for the families, the parents, you know, relatives, friends, and us as a church, a public commitment to say we are going to support each other in this journey to raise our young in the ways of God. To say that it is a community effort, that the parents are pledging to raise the babies in the ways of the Lord, but that also we are relying and wanting your support to do that. And just bottom line, we are pledging today to be Jesus to these kids. Me, the other parents, the other family members, and all of us. Very simple. Today, we are pledging to be Jesus to these kids. I'm going to have Dave Riley start and pray for the Patricks. And then, I don't know if you want to pass the microphone down to Mike, who's going to pray for us. And then David Crow will get the mic from Mike and pray for Molly Jane.
I have to say something before I pray. I was thinking this morning as I was thinking about Sean and Mandy, they met in this church because of their relationship with God. They were married right there on those steps. It was one of the best weddings I think this church has ever had. And I was thinking, first comes love. Then it comes marriage. What a blessing it is to see life develop around the church. You ready? God, I just pray your blessing on Michael Braylon Patrick. I ask God that you would just fill him with your spirit. Father, may he grow to be a young man, and may he grow to be a man after your own heart. Father, may you use him, Lord, for his well-being and your glory, God, as he serves you. But in order to do that, Lord, I know that he has to be raised by good parents who follow you too. And I thank you that Sean and Mandy love you, and I ask God that you would just give them wisdom, patience, Lord, give them your heart as they raise their brand. Pray that you would bless them as a family and as it grows. We thank you for the miracle of life that he is. We ask, God, that you would just bless Braylon right now and fill him, God, with all good things. Thank you for the family that surrounds them, the support that they have. And Lord, I just pray your blessing now on all of them. And we just lift up the Braylon to you. In Jesus' name.
It is a blessing to be here. Myra and I, along with Bob and Cheryl, to participate today. And we're just so thankful for God's love, his goodness, the way we experience his kindness and love in so many ways. So join with me as we pray for Isaiah Michael and our daughter and son. Father, we're so thankful for the joy you bring into our lives. We experience your gifts in so many ways. And we just thank you for family. We thank you, Father, for the birth of Isaiah Michael. And we are just thankful for your goodness and love. We pray, Father, that you will surround him with your grace throughout his life, that you will cause your face to shine upon him, and to surround him with your hand of love and help. Father, we do realize that a child is a wonderful, wonderful joy, but a great responsibility as well. So we pray that you will be with Paige and Jack as they raise this baby, and that you will help them to be the kind of positive influence that you desire them to be. We pray, Father, that you'll help them to always pray for your wisdom in raising this child and their new family together. We pray that you'll help them to keep their hearts and minds looking to you and Christ at your right hand all the days of their lives. We love you, we acknowledge our love for you, but also our need for you. And we do pray that you will provide your grace, your love, your patience, your encouragement for this family, for baby Isaiah. We pray in Christ's name. Amen.
It's a pleasure for 3 generations of our family to be able to worship together in the same church. And Minnie's mother, of course, has been with us for a year, and that was 4 generations of us being able to worship together. That's very special to us. Father in heaven, we thank you so much for the gift of life. And we're grateful for the life that you have given to Molly Jane. We thank you that you brought her into the world safely. She is growing. We commit her into your hands, that you would help her continue to grow not only physically, but also that she would come to know you and your Son, that she would grow spiritually, that she would want to accept your Son as her Savior, and that she would have hope of eternal life in the age to come. I pray that as she grows up, that you would put a hedge of protection around her, help her not to submit to temptation, that keep evil away from her, and that she will be able to be a growing and strong Christian. Father, we pray for Jerry and Carrie, Elijah and Colton as they care for Molly, as they model before her what it means to be an educated Christian. And we pray that you will just help her to continue to develop under their love and care. I do pray for the congregation that each of us would recognize the role we play in encouraging children and Molly. We would model what it means to love you and your Son and to serve you. We do pray that Molly will grow up to be an active part of this church and to take a role of leadership in helping others to know the way of truth and righteousness. We commit her into your hands now. In Jesus' name.
The worship team is going to get in place, and we'll sing one more song.